Hey, we're back with another preview today. We have another beastly motherboard, this one from MSI, the MEG Z890 Ace. This is going to be basically the competitor to Ace's Hero, and as I have got one of those, I'm wondering if we might do a little versus. If anyone is interested, do let me know in the comments. But this one is going to be, have found pricing online, so not breaking any embargoes, at $649. So it looks to be a little bit cheaper than the Hero as well, so it's something to take into account. But let's get into this. We have got a very nice box and a nice handle on the top going across the actual front of the box. Some very interesting there, 10G, that's quite nice to see. Warning, and then the usual kind of chipset information in the side, Wi-Fi 7, and then for the Core Ultra series processors. Just tucking that handle in so you can open the box. We do have a little bit that says Ascendance Crafted Excellence, hence the name Ace. So obviously, as like before, we'll take the motherboard out and put that to the side and see what we've got underneath. Okay, so on the left hand side, looks like we've got a Wi-Fi antennas. It does support Wi-Fi 7, it's pretty much going to be a standard thing for Z890. On the right hand side here, we have got a thermal probe. There's two of those. We've got a, looks like the adapter cable. Saw one of these on the X870 Tomahawk, a single header on the board that you then plug this cable in, that breaks out to a 4-pin header. There's a 5-volt addressable RGB and also the front panel connectors as well. Then we've also got a couple of packs of SATA cables. So there's 4 there, 2 of which are right angled. We've then got a little adapter cable for 3-pin 5-volt addressable to the 3-pin that's more like a Fantex kind of connection. Here we have a little extension for the front panel. If you want a nice little black cable you can tuck around and out the way. We've got a cable that will adapt a 12-volt RGB cable to additional 2 more males. And then there's some documentation here, quick installation guide, a couple of stickers. Finally, in the top left, we have got a little standoff for an M.2. There's 2 of those. This is a little key that allows you to take off the quick connect from the board. I did wonder what it was for before. Then very last but not least, I missed this, we have got the USB stick with all of the drivers on. Now just bear in mind these will go out of date when they update them, so you can just replace the ones that are on there, so it's always up to date. But nice to be using a USB stick and not a CD anymore. And here we have the Z890 Ace. This will be MSI's flagship board minus the Godlike, but that's a board that very few people need the features that it offers. So I think for most high-end systems, this will be the one that people will be going for. As you can see, very well equipped to power those CPUs. There's absolutely tons of chokes and MOSFETs there. This board's got a 24+1+2+1 stage VRM. So whatever CPU you want to chuck in it, this will handle it without any problems whatsoever. If I just tilt this up, you'll see that really thick aluminium or aluminum over the VRM and also the rear I/O. Then there's also a heat pipe that transfers to this fin arrangement on the right hand side. You can see my finger through that, but that will help keep that top part nice and cool. Also, let's just turn this over so you can see the back plate that is installed. Very nice gold and black design. So we have got a few peels. Let's just do these before we get looking around the board. Well, so that's actually a very stealthy black. Now we've taken that peel off over the gloss, what it looked like to be before. One on the VRM. So now I've taken off all of those peels. The board looks a lot more stealthy than it did previously. The plastic kind of gave it an illusion that it was going to be really glossy underneath, but now I've taken them off, you can see it's a lot more stealthy, and I personally like that a lot more than what I thought it was going to be beforehand. But let's now look around the board. On the top left hand side, we have got a 4-pin header for our fan at System Fan 1. We have our 2 8-pin EPS connectors, not shielded, but they are solid pins. We've then got another 4-pin fan header at CPU Fan 1. There's another 2 on the right hand side. And we have got a little LED readout for posting, and also a 3-pin 5-volt addressable. We've then got a postcode readout. I'd love to see this on any board. I think even the budget one should have them. Very cheap to implement and really help people out, especially if you're a beginner builder. We've then got a 24-pin for power. There's also an additional 6-pin. This will be if you want to use the 60-watt charging that you can do from the USB-C port. You need to plug that one in there. We then have the Easy Connect cable down below that. So that's the little cable that breaks out to a 4-pin front panel and also a 3-pin RGB. On the right angle, we've got the Type-C port. So like I said, use the 6-pin if you want to enable the 60-watt charging. We then have the 2 USB Type-A ports. These are USB 3.2 Gen 1. And then we've got 4 SATA 6 gigabit ports on the right angle. On the bottom right, we've got another 3-pin addressable 5-volt RGB. Front panel, power button and reset button. Very handy if you're doing a lot of bench testing. We've then got another 2 4-pin headers for fans. And there's also a 3-pin which is going to be for a water pump. We then have 2 USB 2 headers, so great for everything like RGB hubs or controllers. So that's a total of 8 4-pin headers on this board. We've then got the Pro points, and there's also an additional 3-pin RGB connector. You have got 3 on the board, but you can use the breakout cable for a total of 4 3-pins on this board. We've then got an additional 8-pin connector, like we saw on the Tomahawk. If you want to really overclock your graphics cards, that will give your PCI lane some extra power. Then we've got a standard 12-volt RGB connector, that's the 4-pin. And then finally our front panel audio on the bottom left. So we have our LGA 1851 socket, so you will need a new processor if you're going to use this board. You won't be able to use a 14900K, for example. That won't fit in this one. And then to the right hand side we have got our DDR5 slots. We'll support 256 gigabytes of DDR5. At the time of filming anyway, you may see the capacity pushed with a future BIOS update, but we'll also support 9000 megahertz with XMP straight out of the box. Pretty nuts. You can of course push it if you want to do it manually, and I expect we'll see some records broken with this board as well. For our expansion slots, the top one is a little push and lift quick release heatsink. Then there's a quite chunky piece of aluminium or aluminum there. We have got an 80mm thermal pad, so this will take an 80mm Gen 5 drive there. Also some push pins. It looks like we'll get some RGB coming through on that heatsink. And below that slot we have got another push and lift section. Turning that over, we'll see some more thermal pads. And we have got support for an additional 4 drives. We can do 3 Gen 4 80mm and then 1 Gen 5 110mm. Then PCI lanes, we have got the top one, which of course is Gen 5 as you'd expect, with the little lock for the PCI latch. The bottom PCI slots are going to be running at Gen 4 and also X4, but perfectly good enough for sound card, capture card, something like that. So finally onto the rear I/O of the board. At the top we have got an HDMI port, great for troubleshooting. We then have the red USB type A ports. We've got a total of 11 10 gig USB A. Love to have a lot of those on the board. We then have got the Thunderbolt 4 type C ports. There's 2 of those. We then got another 2 type C 10 gig. We have a 10 gig Ethernet, great for home NAS or a home server. You can transfer a lot of files, something like that. Very handy thing to have. We have 3 different buttons in the middle. We've got a flash BIOS button, a clear CMOS, and also a smart one that you can program. I'd certainly recommend you get used to the orientation of those so you don't accidentally clear your CMOS when you're trying to press the smart one, for example, especially if you're looking at somewhere you can't see. Certainly learn those. Then at the bottom we've got our Wi-Fi antenna connection point, so Wi-Fi 7. This also has Bluetooth 5.4. And then we have a line out, microphone in, and finally an SP diff. So that was a look at the MSI MEG Z890 Ace. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments box below. I'll have the pricing and availability when it is available. Looking to be around $650 though, so it's certainly high end, but a little bit cheaper than the Hero, so something to bear in mind. I'll also do that versus video if you'd like to see that. We'll be using this in the build as well, so stay tuned for that. Get subscribed and ding the bell so you don't miss it. I've got a lot of stuff coming up, even launch stuff aside. There's other things that I'm working on as well, so there's a varied range of content coming up. So yeah, please subscribe if you enjoyed it, and ding the bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to MSI for sending this out for me to look at, and I'll see you all in the next one.